Hey guys, it's Jordan here from SwitchWatch, back again with another review, this time of Hollow on the Nintendo Switch. Now this is a first-person horror game, and thanks to Forever Entertainment for providing a review code so I can tell you guys if it's worth your hard-earned cash or not. Now today's question of the day is, do you prefer first-person horror games or third-person horror games? Which ones do you find more scary? Let me know in the comments below. Let's get on with the review. Viewer discretion is advised. This video game contains material unsuitable for a younger audience. Please do not watch if you are under 18 years old. Thank you. While Forever Entertainment have released a variety of games on the Nintendo Switch so far, from adventure games like Violet or evolution games like Sparkle to Evo, none of them so far have managed to bring the excitement and anticipation that Hollow did upon announcement. First-person horror games are always an interesting prospect. What's more exciting than being shocked and horrified as though it's from your very own eyes? We've recently reviewed Layers of Fear, which is also of the same ilk, but is it as good as what Juan thought of that game? As far as the story goes, it's a pretty big part of the game, I would say. You are a nameless pilot who has landed on the Shakhtar 1, a mining facility orbiting Jupiter. While dazed and confused, your first steps into the huge metallic installation are met with immediate trepidation. No lights, no signs of life, and an alarm signaling that things have gone wrong. As you make your way to the command center to find out what's going on, you're contacted via email by a mysterious patron who guides your way. It's not long until you're told exactly what to do. Turn the power back on in order to escape. And you will want to escape because Shakhtar 1 has been overrun by demonic beasts that have wiped the ship of life. The story is told via messages lying around or emails, and smaller interactions with a few cutscenes here and there with another mysterious survivor, or things that may be hallucinations. You're never too sure. I must admit, even though Hollow didn't present the most intriguing or horrifying story that I've played, I was interested in finding out what would happen at the end, and like good old horror stories, it presents a decent twist or two. As with any horror game, the audio is really important. It's supposed to build atmosphere and tension, and thankfully, the one found here in Hollow does. There are lots of creepy environmental noises, mostly stemming from door openings and closings that you can't see, radio chatter and creaks. It's all pretty good, but I do think the audio levels aren't quite mixed correctly. I think it's a little loud compared to most other games, and some elements can overbear others at times, which is a shame, but it's not too detrimental to the experience. There is some voice acting in Hollow, but I found it to be slightly below par if I'm honest. You'll mostly be hearing the main character talking, and he just lacks a certain something that would otherwise make him believable. I didn't find it took too much away from the game, but it could have been better. Visually, I think the game is okay for an indie game. Yes, the environments and assets are reused a little too much. You'll see many of the same things over and over again, but it's done with fairly decent style. There are some pretty good textures in the game too. Naturally, as a horror game, it's dark. Really dark. Your flashlight helps somewhat, but I often found myself squinting at the TV, which is never the best situation. There are tons of effects on screen, especially with the very strong static, which I think is trying to emulate old style videos. It's incredibly grainy, and it does look nice for the most part, but you can't help feel that it's trying to mask that this isn't quite the spiffing looking game that it is on the PC. It's definitely been pared back for the Switch release, and in handheld mode, it really is not the best. It can even be visually overwhelming at times. They've completely dialed everything up to 11 on this one, so much so that when the game was glitching out, I actually thought it was all part of the visual aspect. I should warn you that Hollow is visually gratuitous. Not exactly in the horror sense, which is pretty tame, but in the form of nudity. I'm not going to show it, but Hollow is not suitable for a younger audience at all. Around the walls and on the beds are nude photos of models with their breasts out. Now, I'm hardly the most prude person in the world, but even I found it completely at odds with the game. I mean, what's the point in them being there? It's just uselessly perverted. In a similar light, the enemies are all of the female variety with their breasts exposed, hence why I'm not showing you many instances of them. That doesn't bother me too much since it seems like a stylistic choice, but having nude pictures laying around is just weird. Finally, the game doesn't run smoothly. It seems to chug along at times, and there are plenty of glitches and objects and situations. For example, one time it forgot to spawn enemies, so I was just standing there waiting for them to appear, but nobody came, despite me dying the previous time for them. It was all kinds of awkward. Hollow is a first-person survival horror game, no doubt a genre that will excite many of you out there, but please follow the rest of the review before you buy it. There are 3 walking speeds in Hollow: slow, ungodly slow, and what's the point of even walking? Thankfully, the last one is limited to when your character is talking out loud at the end of cutscenes and is fairly infrequent. The other 2 can be toggled between each other via click of the left analog stick. It's almost painful how slow you walk, and it honestly detracts from the experience. There's nothing worse than knowing how far you have to walk, especially if you have to backtrack, which can take an absolute age. Not to mention, if you get stumped by a puzzle and you need to aimlessly walk around looking for answers, it's just painful. You can understand why they would want you to walk slowly to build tension, but it just makes you groan. I did not like walking in this game. Your nameless pilot will walk very slowly around the environments, picking up notes and solving basic puzzles. Soon after starting the game, you'll pick up your first weapon, which is used to blast the rather unvaried enemies that will attack you. Being a purposely stiff game, as per the genre, the combat is particularly unsatisfying. Aiming is tough, and enemies can be relentless at times, and things get really tight when ammunition is so scarce. If you have no ammo, you have no defense. Sure, you have a kicking melee attack, but that does no damage at all and only pushes the enemy away. And even then, you'll be lucky to get away without taking any damage because it's genuinely feeble, and judging the distance to use it is almost impossible at times. You will get hit. Running away is not much of an option thanks to your snail-like movements. To go hand in hand with the lack of ammo is the fact that reloading presents a harsh lesson, especially when first playing the game. As any gamer worth their salt would do, I reloaded my weapon as soon as there was a clear moment to do so. But in this game, if you reload while you still have ammo in the chamber, you will lose it. Yes, it's actually mirroring how it would work in real life, but it also made me unable to kill the first batch of enemies. I ended up having to outrun the last monster for a good 10 minutes before closing a door on it. With how slow the movement is in Hollow, that was not a joyous experience. There are some puzzles to solve in order to progress to the next area of the game, or even power up one of the generators. These are generally simple, but I did find a couple of puzzles relatively obscure. The first one was finding a code for a door in which the clues were utterly useless. The second was a moving crates job, which was far too clunky and annoying to do. They weren't particularly satisfying to do overall. Of course, how can you mention a horror game without talking about how scary it is? Well, in my mind, Hollow is not scary, not in the slightest. The horrors that it tries to show are tame at best. Jump scares are kept to a minimum, and even when they are present, they're usually off camera as you're generally looking the wrong way. The only thing that's vaguely creepy is the sound design, but in all honesty, I've been more freaked out elsewhere. The enemies are more laughable than scary, and the overbearing static on the screen takes away a lot of the scariness despite looking cool. Sadly, the combination of all of these things together make Hollow a very hollow experience. Pardon the joke, but it's true. It had a lot of promise for sure, but the execution just isn't there at all. It's all a little too predictable, too amateurish, and it feels like it's been held together with tape. It just doesn't work for me. The combat needed to be better, there needed to be more enemy types and more satisfying puzzles. The dredge of walking from one place to another and the backtracking will be a test of anybody's patience. It's just not enjoyable to play in the least. It's actually hard to say that because you can actually see that they were trying somewhat, at least in their initial intentions, but it seems they got to a point of development and just gave up. At £17.99 or $19.99, you pretty much know what I think in this regard. The quality on offer does not represent the high price tag. In fact, I find that price almost laughably ambitious. While it may try to let you think that it's a game with a nice budget, it really isn't. It comes across as fairly cheap and short. There are far better and lengthier games that you could spend your money on. Do not buy this game at full price. Overall, I never feel comfortable giving a negative review of a game, especially when you see that they were trying at some point along the line. However, the high price point, low quality of game, and some poor design decisions have forced my hand when it comes to Hollow. Hollow is not a good game. it's not even an average game. It's sadly below par for what it's trying to achieve. From the screenshots to the trailers, you may be tricked into thinking Hollow is a quality made game, but it is not. It's not scary, and it's not fun. It's below average at best, and poor at worst. I'm going to give Hollow a 3.5 out of 10. Okay guys, you know what to do. If you're a regular Switch watcher, then hit that like button and leave a comment below to answer the question of the day. Do you prefer first person or third person horror games? Me personally, I always go for third person, as seeing all of your surroundings at once really builds up the tension for me. If you're new here, then consider subscribing for more awesome Switch reviews far into the future. And of course, finally head over to switchwatch.co.uk for a daily look at reviews, news and features. I've been Jordan from Switchwatch, and I'll see you guys next time.